Hello everyone, this is Hispa. Welcome to my channel. Well, this is the first true video of this new series in which, as I explained it in my previous video, I am going to talk about the specific topics of the hobby, especially those ones related with HeroQuest board game. Please be aware that I will probably reveal spoilers through this video about the story told in official products of HeroQuest, so if you don't want to hear about them, I encourage you to stop listening. The release by Avalon Hill Hasbro of the remake of Wizards of Morcar expansion set for HeroQuest has thrown to the fans community of the game a recurrent question: what's going to be released next? And that's exactly what I am going to talk about in this video. I know this topic is something which has been well discussed before by other YouTube channels. Even I talked about it before in my live collaboration videos on La Guarida de Morcar channel. However, after receiving my own copy of the expansion, I have changed my mind a bit on this topic. So I think that the daily update of my previous thoughts over it was something which could be of your interest. So that's the reason why I decided to create this video. Since Avalon Hill Hasbro relaunched the HeroQuest franchise back in year 2021, have been officially released two different versions of the basic game system. 11 expansion boxes, 3 Hero Collection mini expansions, 6 online free quests, and several merchandise extra items for collecting, like extra dice sets, dice trays, etc. And was even released as show rare card game version of the board game. The amount of material released by Avalon Hill for the game through this new era is, in my opinion, so impressive, which I think can only reflect the high success on sales that the franchise is having at the stores in most of the countries it is being sold. Considering that the franchise has been commercially active through the last 5 years, which looks to be so much for a mass market board game, and according to the high amount of releasing material, many fans of the game has assumed that the official support to the game was no longer to be as it has been through these years, or even its products were going to be out of the market soon. Moreover, it is well known that the HeroQuest official app by Hasbro was only expected to be working until end of 2026. So the alarm inside the fans community through the last months, years about this has been rather justified, in my opinion. However, recent posts by Avalon Hill officials on their Discord server have calmed a lot the sea of fans who wanted more HeroQuest material. Avalon Hill has explicitly declared that HeroQuest franchise is not dead and we will see more HeroQuest in the future, which is of course great. Then, how are they going to continue the franchise? Well, nobody outside Hasbro knows it by now, but I will share with you on this video my thoughts about this. Please keep in mind that all this video is a speculation exercise from my side, based in the available public information, so okay, let's go. Well, assuming that Avalon Hill is revealing with their message on Discord that they are going to release more new products for the game and not just reprints of the already released products, which would be also welcome in some countries like Spain, where many of the expansions are out of stock since years ago, I think that Avalon Hill has two main options in terms of which kind of new expansion sets might be released after Wizards of Morcar 1. On one side, they could decide to release another remake of any classic product they had not remade yet for the modern HeroQuest. I am referring to expansion sets which already existed on the classic HeroQuest, like they already did with Kellar's Keep, Return of the Witch Lord, Against of the Ogre Horde, Wizards of Morcar, From the Horror, and Mage of the Mirror. On the other hand, the other main option they have is directly releasing a fully new expansion set like they did, for example, with the expansions included in the Mighty Tier, on Rise of the Dread Moon, or Jungles of Delthrak, okay? About classic products of HeroQuest, which were never remade by Avalon Hill for the modern version of the game, there are not many left. but I think there are still some interesting ones which I would like to mention. The first one which came to my mind, and to many other fans, is the Dark Company Classic Quest. This campaign was designed by Stephen Baker in the shape of a complex super quest, and it was only included in the 1992's Advanced Quest edition of the classic European version of the basic game. Like Against the Horror Horde and Wizards of Morcar, this expansion was never released in North America back in the day, so maybe that might be a strong reason for Avalon Hill to finally release it for modern HeroQuest. However, releasing this campaign in the shape of a full expansion box would need a lot of fixes and adaptations, which could probably force Avalon Hill to introduce hard changes over the classic version of the campaign. Because already exist in the market other boxes including mercenary miniatures, and the traitor plot maybe has been seen too much with Sir Ragnar character in latest expansions. New miniature designs for the Dark Warriors and Doom Wars would be probably a solution to make the product attractive, but it would also mean more production investment in terms of making new molds, etc., which is a risky option. So, how they could finally manage this in order to make a non repetitive but competitive product is a total incognita for me. Maybe Avalon Hill could see a good opportunity to include in this expansion box the alternative gender hero miniatures included in the Mythic tier box to make the expansion commercially attractive, maybe? Well, would be of course a good idea, who knows. Other less risky option Avalon Hill has to keep the fans happy is maybe just releasing this super quest in a digital manner via PDF file, like they have done with the available online quests, preserving the Dark Company design close to the original quest. This vanilla last option could boost even more the sales of Wizards of Morcar and Frozen Horror boxes since they include mercenary miniatures. Not the best solutions for the fans, of course, but maybe the only one commercially possible. The Dark Company is today, for many people, a clear candidate to be physically released by Avalon Hill as a new expansion box after Wizards of Morcar. But I honestly don't see it happening if they don't introduce a lot of changes to the original product. Nevertheless, whatever Avalon Hill will do at the end with the Dark Company, if they really do something, if you are interested in playing this adventure, I encourage you to check the fan-made full redesign I did of the Dark Company by watching the videos you may find on my channel about this matter. All files of this fan-made project were shared by free for private use only and can be easily found in the All Informed website for anyone interested. Other hot option related with classic material which has been discussed a lot on social media through the last years is the potential release by Avalon Hill of the Lost Quest Packs for the Wizard and the Dwarf. Back in the 90s, Milton Bradley released in North America the Frozen Horror and the Mage of the Mirror, the quest packs dedicated to the Barbarian and Elf heroes. But there were also plans by MB to release other two equivalent packs for the other two heroes, the Wizard and the Dwarf. Unfortunately, these two packs were never released by Milton Bradley before the franchise production finished, and these projects were left for oblivion. These packs were even considered by the fans like a kind of myth for decades, like if they had never existed nor had existed actual plans to make them. However, some HeroQuest fans like Toko and Lesto Dante investigated a lot this matter years ago, gathered information about them, and confirmed that these packs were actually planned to be released by MB back in the day. Moreover, another fan and collector, Luca Passi, was even able to have access to most of the original drafts of those lost expansions, and with the help of other fans, he launched a project to restore and make playable those two classic packs, an awesome creative project which I am proud and grateful to be part since the beginning. Well, about the possibility of releasing by Avalon Hill these two lost packs, I am really skeptical due to a combination of reasons. Even assuming that Hasbro has preserved until now all the documents and drafts about these lost expansions, which is maybe assuming too much, they were anyway rather unfinished products which still needed to be completed and tested. As I guess, it had probably supposed to Avalon Hill design team a lot of work compared with other classic quest packs they have remade. And we must remember that Avalon Hill already decided in remake of Frozen Horror and Mage of the Mirror to abandon the concept of linking the content of each quest pack with a specific hero. Those two packs were not called anymore as Barbarian Quest Pack or Elf Quest Pack, so releasing the two lost expansions as they were projected in the 90s, I think has not too much sense anymore for Avalon Hill and their design policies. Moreover, providing a new female wizard miniature and new spell cards to be used by the wizard is something already done in the remake of Wizards of Morcar expansion. Additionally, some of those new spells also inspired the ones to be included in the classic pack for the Wizard Hero, since Wizards of Morcar was not going to be released in North America in the 90s. And there are similar elements from the classic Wizard pack which has been already shown in other recent new packs, like the Saber-Fang Snow Tiger and a Spider Monster included in the Jungles of Delrak, or the Minotaur Monster from the Wizards of Morcar. So releasing now the Wizard pack as it was designed in the 90s, in my personal opinion, would look a too repetitive product and probably not enough attractive compared with the rest of already released products. About the Dwarf pack, I have a similar feeling. We have already seen new Dwarven heroes included in Jungles of Delrak expansion in the shape of explorers. And we have also seen elements inspired or directly borrowed from the classic Dwarf pack, like the Golems, or the magical hammer included in Wizards of Morcar, or the giant snake seen in Jungles of Delrak. Therefore, again, my feeling is so skeptical about seeing these packs released for modern HeroQuest as they were originally planned. But of course, I don't have a crystal ball, so who knows? Perhaps I don't discard seeing, for example, any other new quest pack including a female dwarf hero, sure. Or a pack including more elemental spells for the spellcaster heroes, sure, why not? But I would be really surprised if we finally see those lost packs released as they were intended to be in the 90s. So even knowing that many hardcore fans would be interested on those official products, I don't honestly believe such thing will happen at this period of the franchise. Another classic product which is many times mentioned in social media, which could be released by Avalon Hill for modern HeroQuest, is the Japanese version of the classic game. This version of the game was very unknown for most of the fans until it was fully translated to English in 2020, as the result of an awesome fan-made project which I was proud to lead in the Oldin forum website. I see rather impossible this version of the basic game could be released by Avalon Hill for the modern HeroQuest, especially because it would be a different rule set than the one already released in 2021, and because there are already two different versions of the game system in the market, thanks to the First Light box. However, I don't discard seeing a new expansion set with a story and characters inspired in the ones from the classic Japanese version of the game, which was different to any other version at the time. Moreover, I think approaching HeroQuest to fantasy oriental aesthetics and themes is something of the taste of Avalon Hill, since they already did with the release of the mini expansion Path of the Wandering Monk. So I can imagine something on this line as a possible featured product. Why not? And finally, about classic official products of HeroQuest which have not been potentially remade yet by Avalon Hill, I can also think on the adventures included in the classic Marvel Winter Special comic, or the adventures included in some issues of the White Dwarf magazine. These kind of products were so cool at the time, and they have today a lot of nostalgic value, but honestly, I don't think Avalon Hill Hasbro will adapt them to the modern version of HeroQuest. All this classic material was generated with the involvement of different entities, not only Milton Bradley, or they were even 100% developed by Games Workshop, like the White Dwarf articles. So I see rather impossible that Avalon Hill could legally use them in any new product. I would totally discard it as an option. Okay, so then I have talked about all the classic products of HeroQuest, which I think could have a chance to be remade by Hasbro or not, or those ones which people are talking about on social media as possible candidates. But what about releasing fully new material after Wizards of Morcar expansion? Well, I think this would be the easiest option for Avalon Hill. HeroQuest's background fits with classic heroic fantasy archetypes, but at the same time, the game has not any rigid lore which could limit the creativity of their designers. So, inventing new stories, monsters, and characters is something rather easy to be done by Avalon Hill, in my opinion, and they have infinite possibilities. One of the easiest approaches I think they could explore is trying to make a new expansion with a them based in one specific race of monsters. Avalon Hill already did it with the classic Against the Ogre Horde, but there are many other races which could be very good candidates for an interesting expansion. I am thinking, for example, in Ratman, these kind of fantasy monsters were also so present in the classic HeroQuest imaginary thanks to Advanced HeroQuest board game from year 1989. On such board game, the Ratmen were known as Skaven, a Games Workshop's term, and they were so present in the described adventures. So, including this race in modern HeroQuest would be surely very well received by the fans community. Another race which I think should worth having their own dedicated expansion could be, of course, the Abominations. This fish looking race arrived on HeroQuest to replace the classic female monster due to IP incompatibilities with Games Workshop. But players do not know anything about this race, so maybe a dedicated expansion would be great to extend their lore. I can easily imagine an aquatic world of lakes and swarms, marshes, where these monsters live protected by magic or other bigger creatures controlled by wise abomination shamans and commanded by bigger size abomination leaders. Why not? But there are many other typical fantasy monsters which could also be the focus of any new expansion. I am also thinking, for example, in trolls, bestmen, lizardmen, or even dragons, which could also be good candidates, as we already seen in several fan-made products for years. There were even rumors back in the day from a Hasbro insider about an expansion based in UNT monsters could be something being developed, but never confirmed. Nevertheless, whatever race Avalon Hill would select, I think this basic approach could be a good starting point to create a winner new expansion product of HeroQuest. From official story standpoint, Wizards of Morcar expansion finishes in a rather open manner, so I think mostly everything is possible to happen after that. What is true is we know from official online quest Dread in the Horizon that Grosok, the Orc Shaman, went to the Sound and his daughter Nyasak has recently died in the expansion, so I think probably the next expansion will have some connection with this. But nobody has any idea about how this connection could be. Everything is totally open now, so I don't dare to guess anything about how the main story of HeroQuest could continue after Wizards of Morcar. There are many theories in social media about probably the HeroQuest franchise will finish in a final combat against Sargon himself, to happen after Crypt of Perpetual Darkness events, but I don't have any clue of that. And it is well known that Stephen Baker, the creator of HeroQuest, never wanted to see the main villain, Morcar or Sargon, onto the board. He always considered him as a being behind the scenes in all the games, controlling his minions. So if Avalon Hill respects the creator's view, I would see difficult to see that thing actually happening, but who knows? I could understand too the temptation of including a great Sargon miniature from a commercial standpoint. And talking about Stephen Baker, I would also like to comment something related with the future of HeroQuest. An interview made to Stephen Baker by a fan back in 2025, and after First Light had been released, Mr. Baker revealed that there was a third HeroQuest pack he had designed for Hasbro but not released it yet. When the content of Wizards of Morcar expansion was totally leaked in social media in November 2025, most of the fans, including myself, quickly checked that Wizards of Morcar's questbook cover did not indicate the Stephen Baker name as designer, like appeared in previous questbooks designed by him for Prophecy of Terror and First Light campaigns. So, according to his answer during the interview, we all thought that another Stephen Baker expansion was still pending to be released after Wizards of Morcar, but. Okay, well, unfortunately, this is what I finally saw when I opened my Spanish copy of Wizards of Morcar. Yes, though the English version of the questbook did not indicate it, the remake of this expansion was probably the another pending one which Mr. Baker was referring to during the interview. So, according to his recent movements and the last projects he has presented in social media, it looks to me that sadly Stephen Baker is not working with Hasbro anymore since long ago. So no more expansions will probably have his name after Wizards of Morcar. Hopefully I'm wrong, but that's my honest impression right now with the data I have. But there is also another point still open regarding the official story of modern HeroQuest. First Light expansion expanded the story of Cassandra and finished with the appearance of a new dragon cap. But this story has not officially been developed more after that. Maybe an expansion extending this story could be very well welcomed by the players. However, we should have always in mind that Avalon Hill design policies have always avoided to force owning any HeroQuest product to be able to play any new expansion, except owning the game system. So, any new expansion which would continue the story of First Light should include everything needed to be played standalone, which means that this expansion should not consider that the players already own the dragon miniature nor the special board included in First Light box. Nevertheless, if all this is solved by Avalon Hill in the new product, I see a perfect option to continue the First Light story in a new expansion. Stephen Baker could even have left some drafts in Hasbro about how he thinks the story should continue. I would also see a good idea to release a small-sized expansion continuing this story, especially thinking in those players who approach it for the first time to HeroQuest through the low-cost box concept of First Light. And thinking in new products for the franchise, there is also another option for Avalon Hill, which is releasing more Hero Collection mini expansions. Unfortunately, I don't know how successful have been the three released ones from a commercial perspective, but since they only included two hero miniatures and they were sold by $15 or $20 price, they always looked to me as products with a high margin of profit. However, it is true that Avalon Hill has not released any new Hero Collection box since years ago, so maybe I am wrong and they are not so beneficial products for Hasbro. Anyway, my very personal opinion is that these kind of products are really attractive from a collected standpoint. I like them, but on the other hand, I think HeroQuest board game does not actually need more heroes by now. There is already a so rich catalog of official heroes. There are now up to 12 different ones, so I think most of the playing spectrum is already covered by them. And there are many other possible ways how Avalon Hill could expand the HeroQuest franchise in next years, of course. It has been mentioned and rumored many times a possible crossover between HeroQuest and Dungeons and Dragons, since both franchises are owned by Hasbro. Well, my opinion about this has always been so clear. I don't think any one of those franchises actually needs the other one, so why Hasbro would do it? I see it unnecessary. Both games can live separated. Other option could be maybe developing a role-playing game based on HeroQuest. Well, it would be a great plot twist and maybe could be something to explore by Hasbro. But I would see more probable other option, which is releasing a new advanced rule set for the board game, which could allow, for example, solo games or playing with a modular board. Why not? As said, I see many possibilities to expand the game in an organic manner. And of course, many more new collecting items could be released in the future. more dice trays, or maybe a revision or reprint of the card game of HeroQuest would be also a good idea, in my opinion. And releasing new comics, books, or puzzles about HeroQuest like was done in the 90s could be probably so welcome to by the fans of the game. Then I don't know exactly what is going to release next Avalon Hill, but I would bet that we will see in a near future at least one or two new HeroQuest boxes in stores. Nevertheless, if I am feeling wrong about the future of the franchise and there is not finally any official release in the coming months or years, we, the fans, could always still make our own HeroQuest adventures as we have done for decades. So no problem at the end, I think. Okay, hopefully you have enjoyed the video. If you have more ideas about what steps we follow Avalon Hill, Hasbro with HeroQuest products, please don't hesitate to comment below. Thank you so much for listening and see you on my next video.